Good day everyone, good day ma'am. I am Eric Eswa taking Bachelor of Science in Criminology. Today, I will be talking about the definition of legal medicines. So what do you mean by legal medicines? Legal medicines is a branch of medicines which deals the application of medical knowledge through the purpose of law and in the administration of justice. Ibig sabihin, ang legal medicine, ito ay pag-aaral na kung saan ay naaayon sa knowledge ng isang physician na maaring gawin o ang purpose ay para sa batas ng ina-administer ng justice. Next is the scope of legal medicine. Ano ba itong ibig sabihin ng scope of legal medicine? So, ito ay broad and encompassing. It is the application of medical and paramedical as demanded by law and administration of justice. Ang scope of legal medicine, ito yung marami ang involved na study, marami ang involved ng mga tao tulad ng anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, mga physics, and other allied sciences. Next is the nature of study of legal medicine. Nature of the study of legal medicines, ito ay knowledge of legal medicine means the ability to acquire the fact, the power to arrange those facts in their logical order. So, ito ay pagkasunod-sunod na mga nakukuha na mga katotohanan na information na dapat magkasunod-sunod into logical order. Next is distinction between an ordinary physician and a medical jurist. Ano ba ang distinction ng dalawa, itong ordinary physician and the medical jurist? So, iba-iba sila yan. Isa-isahin natin. Ordinary physician is sees an injury or disease on the point of view of treatment, while a medical jurist sees injury or disorder on the point of view of the cause. So, ganito yan. The purpose of ordinary physician, ang kanilang ginagawa is determine the treatment of the patient and it's either injury or what kind of the cause of ng isang pasyente. So, si medical jurist naman, ang purpose ng medical jurist in legal medicine include those body lesion report and testify before the court or before an investigative body, thus giving justice to whom it is due. So again, the purpose of these two chart is, the first is the ordinary physician and the medical jurist. Again, the purpose is an ordinary physician examining a patient is to arrive at a definite diagnosis so that appropriate treatment can be instituted. Yan ang purpose ng ordinary physician. Examining a patient is to arrive at a definite diagnosis so that appropriate treatment can be instituted. While the medical jurist or medical jurist, ang purpose nito is examining a patient is to include those bodily lesion or injury in his report and testify before the court or before an investigative body, thus giving justice to whom is due. The next one is what we call the law. What is law? Law is a rule of conduct led by legitimate power for common observance and benefits. So, what do you mean by law definition? Ang ating batas ay may mga karakteristik nito. So, una, related dysfunction is a rule of conduct just obligatory led by legitimate power for common observance and benefits. So, ibig sabihin, ang batas ng Pilipinas, ito ay dapat sundin ng mga tao na kung saan nasa Pilipinas, territory ng Philippines. Next is, it is dictated by the legitimate power. So, yung gumagawa ng batas ng Pilipinas ay lawmaker. Next is compulsory and obligatory to all. So, ang lahat ng tao na nandito sa Pilipinas ay obligatory, compulsory ng ating Pilipinas na sumunod sa batas ng Pilipinas. So, yan ang ibig sabihin na law dito sa Pilipinas. Again, ang batas sa Pilipinas ay may mga rules and regulation na maaaring sundin. Next is ang mga batas na nasa Pilipinas ay ginagawa yan ng mga legislative body. Pagkatapos, ito ay mapasa na sa Congress, ay maaari na itong compulsory at we are all obliged to follow that law that passed in the Senate. Next, forms of law. Written or statutory law. This is composed of laws which are produced by the country's legislation and which are defined, codified, and incorporated by the lawmaking body. So, ibig sabihin, ang written or statutory law, ito ay example dito sa Pilipinas. Yung mga batas ng Pilipinas, ito ay tinatawag na written or statutory law. Kasi, ang lawmaking body yung gumagawa ng batas dito sa Pilipinas. Mga tao na nasa legislation, sila yung gumagawa ng batas. Next, unwritten or common law. This is composed of the unwritten law based immemorial customs and usages. It is sometimes referred to as case law, common law, jurisprudence, or customary law. So, yan ang pagkaiba ng written or statutory law. So, ano ang ibig sabihin ng unwritten or common law? Ngayon, yung unwritten or common law, ito ay hindi batas dito sa Pilipinas. Pero, ginagamit sa Pilipinas. So, example, yung batas ng Amerika na maaaring ginagamit dito sa Pilipinas, yung batas ng England, maaaring ginagamit dito sa Pilipinas. Pinag-aaralan ng Pilipinas ang kanilang batas. So, sa makatuwid, ito ay tinatawag na international law. Ganon ang pagkakaiba ng dalawa. Yung written or statutory law and unwritten or common law. So, that are the difference between the written or statutory law and unwritten or common law. Next is forensic. Forensic, it denotes anything belonging to the court of law or used in court or legal proceeding or something fitted for legal or public argumentation. So, it is the belonging to the court of law. That is what we call the forensic. Next is medicine. Medicine is a science and art dealing with prevention, cure, alleviation of disease. It is that part of science and art of restoring and preserving health. The term medicine is also applied to a science and art of diagnosing, treating, curing, and preventing disease, relieving pain, and improving the health of a person. That is medicine. Next is legal. Legal is that which pertains to law, tracing out by the high virtue of or include in law. It also refers to anything comportable to the letters or rules of laws as it's administered by the court. The next one is what we call the jurisprudence. What is jurisprudence? Juris, from the word juris, is what we call the law. That is juris. Prudence is the knowledge. Jurisprudence is the knowledge of law. That is jurisprudence. So what is jurisprudence? It is a practical science which investigates the nature, origin, development and function of law. It is a science of giving rules, interpretation of laws, and making just application of them to all cases and they realize. That is what we call the jurisprudence. Next, we proceed to the branches of law where legal medicine may be applied. So, ito yung mga branches ng batas ng Pilipinas na kung saan ay maaari mai-apply sa legal medicine. First is what we call the civil law. Second, criminal law. Third, remedial law. And the special laws. Next, according to Republic Act 400 dated June 18, 1949 as amended by the Republic Act 1934, Section 35, for certain creation of the office of the medical examiners and criminal investigation laboratory under the public police department of the city of Manila. So that was during June 18, 1949. But inamend ito nung ginawa ang batas sa Republic Act 1934 under Section 35. Next is the Presidential Decree 856. Bakit Presidential Decree? Presidential Decree, ito ay panahon ni Pangulong Ferdinand E. Marcos. So that was before Presidential Decree. Dated December 23, 1975. According to Presidential Decree 856, dated December 23, 1975, was promulgated and Section 95 provides that letter A, persons authorized to perform autopsies. So, ang mga tao na authorized ng batas na mag-conduct ng autopsy is first, the health officers. Second, medical officers of law enforcement agency. So, mga medico-legal, sila yung inatasang magsasagawa o mag-perform ng autopsies. The next is member of the medical staff of accredited hospital. So, dito sa Davao, ang mga authorized na mag-perform ng autopsy is yung mga accredited na hospital. So, dito sa Davao is first is Southern Philippine Medical Clinics are authorized to conduct or perform the autopsies because PMC is accredited by the medical officers or accredited hospitals. Next is letter B, autopsy shall be performed in the following cases. So, ito ay mga sumusunod na kung saan paano magsasagawa ng autopsy. So, ganun. First is whenever required by special laws. So, if required by special laws. So, pag required of special laws, maaari tayong mag-conduct ng autopsy. Next is upon order of a competent court, a mayor, and provincial or city fiscal or prosecutor. So, yan ang pangalawa. If maaari tayong mag-conduct ng autopsy, if upon order of a competent court or upon order by a mayor or provincial or city fiscal or prosecutor. So, pwede tayong mag-conduct ng autopsy pag required ng mga ganitong mga personahe. Next one, upon written request of police authorities. So, maaari tayong mag-conduct ng autopsy pag authorized or upon request by the police authorities. The next one is whenever the Solicitor General, provincial or city fiscal or prosecutor deem it necessary to distinct and take position of the remaining of examination to determine the cause of death. So, maaari na tayong mag-conduct ng autopsy pag kailangan ng Solicitor General or provincial or city fiscal or prosecutor, kinakailangan natin mag-take position para alamin kung ano ang dahilan ng death. Paano natin ma-determine kung ano ang dahilan ng death? So, magsasagawa tayo ng tinatawag na autopsy. Pero, kailangan ng request for Solicitor General and Provincial or City Fiscal or Prosecutor. The last one, whenever the nearest kin shall request in writing the authorities concerned to pertain the cause of death. Kanina, Solicitor General or Provincial City Fiscal or Prosecutor para alamin kung ano ang dahilan or what is the cause of death. So, sa last, ito naman ay request ng individual na kung saan i-request ito ng concerned authorities para malaman o pertinent ang cause ng death. So, that is the Republic Act 400 dated June 18, 1949. This Republic Act was amended by Republic Act 1934 under Section 35. So that is the person are authorized to perform autopsies and how to perform the autopsies in the following cases. Let us proceed to the type of medical evidence. First is evidence. What is evidence? Evidence, it is the means sanctioned by the rules of court of ascertaining in a judicial proceeding the truth, repeating matter of facts. So that is the evidence. Next is the autoptic or real evidence. Autoptic or real evidence is what we call address to the senses of the court. So, what does it mean? Ang autoptic daw, or real evidence, ito ay makikita sa five senses ng tao or makikita in a court of law. So, that is example ng autoptic or real evidence like knife. Kasi mapipresenta yan sa court. Firearms. So, another example of autoptic or real evidence. Next one is the testimonial evidence. Testimonial evidence or physician may be commanded to appear before give his testimony. Testimonial evidence is when the autopsy are performed, the physician who performed the autopsies must be commanded or must be presented those evidence that was resolved in the autopsies. So that is testimonial evidence. Same with experimental evidence. Experimental evidence is medical witnesses may be allowed by the court to confirm the allegation or as corroborated proof to an opinion he previously stated. So, testimonial at saka experimental parang may similarity. So, next is documentary evidence. So, what are those documentary evidence? When we talk about documentary evidence, an instrument or which is recorded by means of letter, figure, or marks intended to use for the purpose of recording that matter which may be eventually used. So, that is the documentary evidence. So, what are documentary evidence? Example, from the word document are evidence like result come from laboratory, the birth certificate, or form of documents. That is the documentary evidence. The next one is what we call the physical evidence. When we talk about physical evidence, these are articles and materials which are found in connection with the investigation which aid in establishing the identity of perpetrator or the circumstances under which the crimes was committed or in general assist in prosecution of criminals. So, physical evidence. Ibig sabihin, ang physical evidence found in the crime scene. So, what is crime scene? The crime scene is what we call the place where the crime was committed. So that is the crime scenes. So if the evidence found in crime scene, example, is the latent print of a perpetrator. So the latent print or a fingerprint of a perpetrator found in the crime scene, so that is one of the example of the what we call the physical evidence. In order to determine the perpetrator to that evidence found in the crime scene, the physical evidence must be presented in the court of law. Let us now proceed to the introduction of death. Forensic thanatology. What is thanatology? Thanatology, word thanatos means death, and logi or logos means science, deals with the medico-legal study of death. Generally, it is conducted upon direction of police or court for the determination of cause and manner of death, and with a view to assist the investigation process. The whole examination of dead body is either for the purpose of identification of body, is either the collection of evidence. Next, what is death? The death is the traditional definition of death in India, as in many other countries, is an irreversible cessation of circulatory and respiratory function. Generally, death means the end of life of person or organism, or the permanent ending of vital processes in a cell or tissue. In medical term, death is defined as the cessation of all vital function of the body, including heartbeat, brain activity, and breathing. Legal death refers to a situation where a person is considered dead under law. A person is usually considered legally dead after a legal pronouncement by a qualified person that further medical care is not appropriate. Let's proceed to the stage of death. Death occurs in two stages. So, ang kamatayan ay nag-occur ito ng dalawang stage. First is the what we call somatic or systematic clinical. That is the first. Somatic, systematic, clinical. The term death as commonly used employed means somatic death. It is to complete and irreversible cessation of vital function of the brain, followed by cessation of the function of the heart and lungs. Next is the cellular or molecular after somatic death. After somatic death, tissues and cells survive for a varying period, depending their oxygen requirements. Where these tissues and cells die, it is termed as cellular or molecular death. Next is the modes of death. There are three modes of death. First, coma. Second, syncope. The third one is asphyxia. First is coma. This death from failure of the brain and irreversible damage to its vital century. It is due to poison, metabolic disorder, raised intracranial pressure, and injuries to brain. So, next one is syncope. This death from failure of function of heart, resulting in hypoperfusion, and hypoxia of the brain. It is due to heart disease, hemorrhage, pathological state of blood exhausting disease or poisoning. The last one is asphyxia. This is death from failure of respiratory function. It is a core pathological condition of the respiratory system such as pneumonia, paralysis, as respiratory center portion of air passage. Next one is the sudden death. What is sudden death? Sudden death are those death which are not preceded for a short period of time. Example, ang mga halimbawa ng sudden death ay accident. Dahil ito ay preceded for a short period of time. That is the example of sudden death. Is accident or murder. Because murder is one of the example of sudden death. Let us now proceed to another topic. This topic is what we call the virginity of the female or feminine. Virginity is the state of being virgin. Virgin is a woman who has not experienced sexual intercourse, which means a woman has no experience in sexual activity. That is what we call a virgin. Virgin term is derived from a Latin word virgo or maiden, which means sexually in expulsion woman, or what we call the virgo in taktak. Okay, virgo in taktak. Next is sign of virginity. Sign of virginity is extragenital sign in breast or in genital sign. Next one is, what is vagina? Vagina is a narrow and tight wall or approximate. Mucosa is robust, reddish in color, and sensitive to touch. So that is a form of vagina. Next is the defloration. Defloration means loss of virginity. Defloration is a woman experience sexual activity. That is defloration. Latin term, de flor, flower, and away, rupture of hymen by sexual intercourse to the plucking of flowers. So that is the Latin term of defloration. Next is the hymen. What is hymen? Hymen, the thin fold of mucous membrane covering vagina about 1 millimeter thick. So it is covered by the mucous membrane covering vaginal canal. So these are the types of hymen. Semilunar, amnular, and tentative, cribriform, vertical, stiff-tailed, perforate. The next one is carbunculae. Is the last one is marteriforms. Let's proceed to the rugosity. Rugosity is not destroyed by one few acts. It is removed by many acts and by first childbirth. That is the rugosity. It may be absent in even virgins, where they are held wide apart in vagina remains closed in virgins. The next one is the false hymen. False hymen is the hymen woman has sexual intercourse. So that is the false hymen. The next one is marriage. What is marriage? So under family code, marriage is a contract between a man and a woman which implies physical union coitus. Nullity of marriage: impotent, lunatic, pregnant, underage, already married. Divorce. What is divorce? Divorce is dissolution of previously valid marriage. So, maraming salamat sa panunood. Sana marami kayong natutunan. Hindi man ito perfect na pagka-explain, pero ginagawa ko po yung makakaya ko na ma-explain lahat ng forms related sa legal medicine subject. Thank you and God bless all.